You'll call the meeting
You are
to
now
order.
live.
Terrific. At 5:01, I am calling, almost said Quality of Life Committee, the Finance Committee to order. And if we could get a roll call, please.
Yes, certainly. Councillor Cassett,
Here.
Councillor Lindell,
Here.
Councillor Rivera,
Here.
Councillor Romero Worth,
I'm here.
and I have Councillor Villarreal is excused. We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Terrific. Yes, Councillor Villarreal is excused tonight. All right. Do we have changes to the agenda, Director McCoy?
No changes, Madam Chair.
All right. Any changes from the committee? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councillor Cassett, a second from Councillor Lindell to approve the agenda for this evening. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councillor Cassett,
Yes.
Councillor Lindell,
Yes.
Councillor Rivera,
Yes.
and Councillor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. On to approval of the consent agenda. Director McCoy, do we have any changes to the consent agenda?
No changes today, Madam Chair.
Terrific. Are there items that the committee would like to discuss? Councillor Lindell.
Thank you, Chair. Item F.
Anything else? Councillor Cassett.
You know, Council Chair,
Yes.
that is not the item that I want to pull. I'm sorry.
All right.
I was
All right.
looking at the wrong one. It's item G.
G. Request for approval of change order number 3 and number 4 to CIP number 957, aeration project bid, that one?
Correct.
All right, G. All right, anything else? All right, do we have a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion from Councillor Lindell, second by Councillor Cassett to approve the consent agenda as amended. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Councillor Cassett,
Yes.
Councillor Lindell,
Yes.
Councillor Rivera,
Yes.
and Councillor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, on to approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting on March 21st, 2022. Are there changes to those minutes from staff?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Any changes from the committee? And if not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councillor Lindell, a second from Councillor Cassett to approve the Finance Committee meeting minutes of March 21st, 2022. If we could get a roll call, please.
Councillor Cassett,
Yes.
Councillor Lindell,
Yes.
Councillor Rivera,
Yes.
Councillor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that motion passes. We do not have an executive session this evening. We do have a presentation on the FY21 audit status update by Director McCoy. Director, I will pass the baton to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, we also have joining us our Chief Accounting Officer, Ricky Bejarano. He is here to answer any questions as well. Just wanted to reiterate to the group tonight that the city has submitted our trial balance as of March 31st, last Thursday. We did the following day start immediately meeting with the city's audit team, Clifton Larson Allen, CLA, to begin this next phase. The next phase is quite significantly different, and our presentations will also be different. We'll be giving you verbal updates. At this point, everything up until March 31st has been within the city's control. So we were able to give you very measured progress updates about percentage completion, which accounts we are working on, which categories we were working on. The next 3 months, we enter into the audit phase. This is where Clifton Larson Allen begins the review of the financials of the city and begins to make inquiries of the city, begins to validate that the information that was provided by the city is accurately and fairly represented. So the presentations, we will continue to keep a biweekly presentation on the agenda for the Finance Committee meetings, but it will be in a brief update, verbal update, as opposed to the nice charts and graphs that the committee was used to seeing for the last few months. That being said, the audit is underway with both the single audit, which is the audit of the federal awards. The audit has established the major federal programs, and we are already fielding questions and providing additional documentation to the auditors about our federal programs. In addition to finance staff responding to questions throughout the next 3 months, the city staff in all departments will be required to answer questions and submit information as needed to our auditors. So it is a very collaborative process that we will be going through, all hands on deck for the next 3 months. Ricky, as I mentioned today, Ricky Bejarano is joining us. Ricky will be the main point of contact to CLA to coordinate the city's audit activity for the next 3 months, and we'll be ensuring that we are being responsive and providing information on a timely basis to our auditors. So Madam Chair, that's the audit update for this evening. I will stand for, as will Mr. Bejarano, stand for any questions at this time.
Great, thank you. And thank you for reminding us how this process works and where we are in it, and how, as a result, the presentation from you in terms of status will change. Very helpful. I think you'll probably need to keep reminding us. Counselors, any questions on this presentation? I don't see anybody waving at me. So thank you. Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. All right, from there, we're going to go to our consent agenda. We're going to item G, pulled by Councilor Lindell. This is a request for approval of change order number 3 and number 4 to CIP number 957, aeration project bid number 20/17/B with RMCI Inc. for an increase of $607,019.13 from previously budgeted funds, with a contract time extension of 107 days. I believe we have Michael Dozier here with the Wastewater Management Division. He's the director. Councilor Lindell, you pulled this item.
Thank you. Let me just look specifically in the overall picture. This project seems like it goes on and on. What was the original cost on this project? Was it 13 million?
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, yes, it was around 13.5 million.
And where are we now?
We are still very close to the 13.5. It is, let's see, actually 12.7 million.
Right, but haven't we had other budget amendments on this that has taken it over the 13 million?
Yes, we had one previous that was 600,000, around there.
So this is another one for over 600,000. So we're 1.2, looking at 1.2 more than what we originally budgeted, correct?
Yes. And
Okay.
this is actually being paid by the contingency that we had added to that amount.
On page 24 of 103 in the packet, there's a memo from RMCI dated August 2nd, 2021. And they're talking about that we need these new blowers and that we need to get 2 temporary blowers while these other ones, from what I can understand here, get installed, and all the other work that goes on with them, and that it delays 34 calendar working days and then 59 working days, but a couple of questions on this. So what if we said no? I mean, this was back in August and it's April now. Where are we in terms of those blowers? Has that work already been done?
Yes, that work is completed already, and the new blower systems are actually in the original ones that were being replaced. They're actually in service right now.
The new ones?
Yes. And
So
the rentals are already sent back to the company that provided them.
it seems like this should have been requested prior to the work being done.
So the original plan was to use another set of blowers that were here at the facility. And those, one of the blowers of the two broke down, and it was, would have taken longer to fix the one that had broken down than it was to rent the other two during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that that's what happened, but
Well, and the original plan was not to use the rental blowers. They weren't originally, we were going to use the actual process ones. But when that one broke down, one other blower wouldn't be enough to handle the amount that we needed of air. So the rental was put in place.
well, I guess some of the other question on part of the whole 600,000 is, it just seems there's things in here that whoever designed and bid out the original project, that there are things in here that I would have expected that they would have been in the original bid instead of being an amendment. And as I just said, I'm bothered by doing the work and then coming months and months and months later asking for an amendment on that work. It just doesn't seem like, what if this got turned down? Then where do we end up? Do we end up that, I don't know. Why are we being asked a full 6 or 7 months after the work is completed for an amendment?
I don't have an answer for you for that. I'm not really sure. I mean, I know in previous contracts, that's the way we work it. If it is a viable piece, say like the blowers that basically without them, the plant can't run. I know we have to make that decision to get it going. I could try and be more timely and get it a lot quicker in front of you, I guess is the only thing I could really do. Or we change the way we do business when we're working for getting any of these change orders completed. I'm not sure if you're asking, should we ask first or?
Well, it's just a super big delay. And it just, some of this, it can, it makes me wonder that in the original bid and the original plans, I mean, I don't know anything about this. How would I know anything about any of this? I don't. But if I was having a huge project done, a big overhaul, a huge project like this, a $13 million project, I would expect the original bid and the proposal to be complete. I don't think that 1.2 million even though it's within the contingency, I would love to not use our contingency on every project that we do. It just troubles me that these big projects are very, very seldom what we originally approve, and they just get more and more expensive. And it also bothers me that a project that looks like it had a known delay back in June of 2021, that we're pretty near 10 months later trying to cover the cost on that. So
in another instance or explanation for, say, the blowers, they were sent back about, let's see, 4.5 weeks ago, almost about a month and maybe a week. So not knowing the total cost on what they would be, taking that forward would be difficult. It'll be guesstimation at the beginning. I don't know if that makes any sense for that piece. You know, if we don't know exactly how much it would be, we could estimate that it's going to be 2 or 3 months of using them. If it goes any further, then we have to go back and ask again. So we'd be looking forward in the meetings.
So is RMCI is the contractor on this?
Yes.
Who is Mr. Farmer?
He is the engineer for Corolla who did the design build piece.
So he works for Corolla, but RMCI is the contractor.
Yes.
And Mr. Tonks is the project manager.
For RMCI.
Okay. I'm not sure why some of these things wouldn't have been in the original bid, why they wouldn't have been noticed, which gives me a little pause in and of itself. And I'm not really sure how these didn't get, these are sizable costs that are being passed on to us. And I'm not sure that they shouldn't have been in the original ask. I don't know. Did they break during the project? I don't know. Should they have been in the original plans and designs? Kind of looking like it, but I guess there's not much answer to this other than this is an amendment to the contract, and we can say yes or we can say no to it. Saying no is probably highly problematic for everybody. So I'll yield the floor right now, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Cassett.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm not sure that I have any more questions, but I do share, I think, some similar concerns as Counselor Lindell. And one of the problems that I kind of have as we're chewing on this project is I frequently see things that get discovered throughout the course of doing the project. And I'm curious how common that is and why some of these pieces, as Councilor Lindell had mentioned, the beginning when we were getting the bids, why there are kind of these large ticket items that show up. Because I know that somewhere in there was also a charge, essentially because the project's been delayed, we are going to be paying more. And so I am concerned about making sure that that's not occurring in the future and how we can avoid that and how we can avoid these surprises that are delaying the project. I guess that is a question. I guess I have a question. Mr.
We
Dozier.
do, and Director Dozier, we do have Director Jones has joined the meeting. I don't know if you all both want to take a shot at this.
I believe he was gonna have some comment on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I actually think Mike Dozier is doing a good job. I do understand, Councilor Lindell, Councilor Cassett, your questions and concerns as going forward. I do believe, so again, this is not a new construction, right? Again, you're working on a plant that began construction in the 60s, right? And it's had modifications every 20 years. So anytime we go into a project, we know that there's going to be things that get uncovered as we go through. So very similar to what Mike Dozier spoke about, it was our intention to use existing blowers on the plant and try to relieve a cost of about $600,000 that we did occur through this project. Unfortunately, though that was our plan, when we tried to use our backup blowers to provide the aeration during the project, that was not successful. If that was an oversight, if I should have never considered using our existing equipment and should have assumed a rental the whole time, I will own that decision. But ultimately, we did believe that the existing blowers that we had would provide the backup air while construction was happening. The minute that failed, I had a contractor who's on site, who's in the middle of work, and a plant that's running and treating water at the same time. We had to make a decision, and Mr. Dozier was right. It was faster for us to bring in the rental than to try to repair an existing system as a backup. So that was put in place. The contractor was able to install the new blowers, get it up and running. And as soon as those blowers were decommissioned and returned for rentals is when the contractor knew the amount that we owed for that change order. We did feel confident that we did have it within the contingency. And so now we are bringing that forward. But again, we made the decision in August to bring in the rental, but we didn't know the final cost until about 4 weeks ago. So I do think that Mr. Dozier is attempting to move rather rapidly. But again, I think we do build contingencies into the project because I do anticipate as the contractor's working, as well as we try to plan it, there will be field decisions that have to be made. And on a project like this, especially on a treatment facility that's running, there's not often times where you're able to go back to the drawing board and replan. And so even though I agree, it's not our intent to go into the contingency, but this is exactly why we put it in place to be able to have a successful project. I do think hindsight, something I could have done different is I've had more than ample opportunities to bring updates. And so maybe that's an oversight on my part where I could have been communicating with the council about the details of the project, even though I didn't necessarily have a request for an approval. And that's definitely something I can evaluate and find ways to do better. So it's not after it's all said and done, you feel like now it's being sprung on you. But with that, I'll pause and anything that Mike and I can answer, that's exactly what we're here to try to do. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Director Jones. I appreciated that. And yeah, I think updates are helpful. And also the memo is definitely an opportunity to color a little bit of this history for us, because that can be beneficial for those reminders when those come through, or just kind of some of the, as you mentioned, the hope was to be able to save $600,000 by using the previous blowers, and turned out that wasn't true. So having a bit of that background, I find very helpful when some of these issues come up, because that does explain why perhaps, this is a larger cost that is coming up as a bit of for us, it feels like a bit of a surprise. So I don't believe I have any further questions. I do appreciate the thought of how we continue to stay updated on this project, as it's a large project, it's an important project, and it's an expensive project. And so of course, all of those really pique our interest very much when they do come up on our agendas. So any way that we might be able to have some more information ahead of time, or a more fleshed out memo would be really wonderful. Thank you so much. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Councilor Lindell, before I go to you, just a a couple quick questions. So because there's a contingency, you sort of know you have funds available to go ahead with the work, even though, because we've approved that fund, that contingency fund, you know you have funds available, and that's what allows you to go ahead. Am I understanding that correctly? And then seek approval after the fact?
Madam Chair, yes, I would say that that is correct. So we do know the money is budgeted. And so what we're trying to do now is match the contract, through the change order. But yes, that you're correct.
And does that happen a lot? I mean, in terms of with I don't know, with wastewater or with big projects, or I haven't seen us do that where the work has already been completed. So I don't know if this is an anomaly, or I haven't been paying close enough attention, or is that kind of standard operating?
Madam Chair, I do believe so. Again, if this was a new construction, I feel like we would have had more latitude, and so you could bring forth change orders while construction is occurring. I would put it kind of very similar to, so again, these were backup blowers. Unfortunately, we'd removed our primary blowers, but if we weren't doing construction, my primary blowers went down and Mr. Dozier switched to the secondary blowers and they failed. I would have still called for the repair, and then I would have come back to the board, to the council with a ratification of an emergency decision that we made. And so in construction, it was very similar to that. So we'd unplugged the blowers, we're on our backup system, and it failed. The only difference is we didn't choose to elect to put the money back into the secondary blowers. It was faster for us to do our rental. But either way, it was kind of like an emergency decision. But because we had the budget, we had a contractor on site, we used the contingency, and now it is more like a ratification. So I do agree. Again, we're asking you for approval of something that we decided that took us down a path, 6 months ago. But I would say that is typical because of the severity of the situation we were in. If it wasn't mission critical at the time, a change order would have come forth prior to doing it.
Yeah, so it's sort of, some of it's the nature of the wastewater treatment facility and this infrastructure. I guess I compare it a little bit to, remodeling a house. You get in and you think it's going to be one thing, and then, take some layers down and you realize there was stuff in there that you hadn't counted on, and leads to greater expense. Councillor Cassett had mentioned being charged for a delay. Was the delay pandemic related?
No, it was not.
What was the nature of the delay?
It was actually for our carryover of funds. When we were taking carryover for the previous year, we had some delay in there that we couldn't print another PO. So it was on our part trying to get that moved over.
Okay. Councillor Lindell, Councillor Rivera has his hand up. Would you mind if I go to him first and then back around to you? Councillor Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Jones or Mr. Dozier, so you're trying to do this work while still being 100% operational. So I think that's important to remember. But what would have happened if you would have had to wait for council approval in order to make these changes? What would have happened to the plant?
It's basically the delay would have to wait on installing either blower. We would have had to have left the older version in play and waited until the approval was done to get it back online. The issue that we were having was a few of the original blowers had already been taken down and the other ones were just not keeping up. So we would have to rewire them back and put them back on.
And so any I assume any amount of delay to the contractor means money, correct?
Yes.
So we would have had to delay a certain amount of days, which potentially would have been more than what it was to replace the blowers and get the temporary ones.
Possibly.
Yeah. All right. So I've been through this working with the city where you anticipate everything's going to go one way, and then you get things that you didn't anticipate. You found things in the building, or you found things that weren't the way you anticipated, and you have to make certain decisions. I get that. So, and I imagine it's much harder for you guys trying to stay 100% operational while still trying to make these decisions. So I get it. And though I agree with Councillor Lundell, these are difficult to try to look at. I do understand the thought process. So thanks to you, and as well as Director Jones. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lindell.
Thank you, Chair. So the delay that we're looking at, what was the cause of the delay? I mean, they're asking us for a delay of 59 calendar days. They want a change order for 28 working days. And a 59-day time extension. So what was the cause of the 28-day delay?
So the 28-day delay was the crossover of funds from fiscal years. We had pause in there when we were crossing over the funds and could not create another PO until it was completed. And when it was completed, we then paid them out. The same week that we were trying to print a PO, one of our people that is an approver in Munis left. So we were sort of stuck trying to get that converted to someone else so they could actually go in and approve the PO. So it pretty much took that 29 days before we could get that done. So without a payment in that time, they held us to that of not making a payment.
And can you explain the 59 calendar day time extension?
Trying to think what the 59-day extension was.
I don't know if it helps you, Mr. Dozier, but I'm looking at page 24 of 103 in my packet. I don't know if, I have no idea if we're looking at the same thing, but just trying to be helpful with that. If I could, it does say in this memo from them, it doesn't really say anything about the reason for these delays being purchase orders. It
Maybe-
says, it says the delay days take into account setup and removal of the temporary blowers.
Counselor Lindell, if I can, so this is a letter dated August 2nd to Mr. Farmer from Mr. Tonks. Just so Director Dozier or Director Jones, if you're trying to find what the counselor's looking at. It's on letterhead from RMCI.
So I believe I'm trying to still find the sheet, but what you're saying is it's the one for the delay dealing with the rental blowers. That more than likely is the time it took to get them here and have them set up.
Yeah, I think that is what the paragraph mentions. The paragraph at the beginning, and Councilor Lindell, I think this is what you're looking at. The city of Santa Fe decreased this delay by authorizing the installation of 2 temporary blowers to operate during the period of time which the construction of the MCC 3705 buckets.
Well, yeah, I see that. I'm looking in the last sentence of the previous paragraph, which says, starting June 14th, the delay in starting the blower demolition began affecting the critical path of the schedule. And it says that we decreased the delay with the 2 temporary blowers.
So the timing, if you're looking through there, the timing would be changing other project pieces that were going on in the aeration blower in the aeration basins. So that would have created more of a delay if the blowers weren't in there, I believe is what the explanation is for that. I'm just trying to find that page on the online copy. My printed copy doesn't have page numbers. You said 24?
Yeah, page 24 of 130 of 103.
Madam Chair, on that point,
Yes, Councilor Rivera.
I don't know if it'll help Councilor Lindell, but on page 27 is the difference between the working days and the calendar days, which shows the difference between the 30 or how they counted the 34 and the 59 working days versus calendar days.
I do see that, Counselor. Thank you. I'm still not clear what the 34 days of delay were due to. I don't think that it was an accounting issue.
So one of them was an accounting issue. The other one is waiting for the blower. On this one, in the case will have been delayed 34 working days. Correct, that part sentence? So that was the 34 days to get the blowers here and install them and connect them.
Well, it's no small amount of money. I mean, it's $60-some thousand. that we didn't get much for.
Director Jones, did you want to?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just trying to help navigate through, but again, the way I read it is because of our blowers failed, they moved to the temporary blowers. They were looking at 34 working days or 59 calendar days. So I think they're using those interchangeable, right? But ultimately, when he's sticking with 34 additional days of work that they would need to get these blowers set up, not allowing them to move forward until these were in place, and disassembling them. But further down, it did look like that they credited us 6 working days because some other charges they'd have already done, which ultimately ended in the change order request for 28 additional working days because of the work that they needed to do to get the temporary blowers, get them installed. Right. So again, these are their crews that are unloading them from trucks, moving them into place. Their electricians running temporary power disconnects, running the piping to hook them up. Like all of that takes days. But ultimately, I think the difference being was 34 hours is what 34 working days is what they were looking at. They gave us a credit of 6 working days because of some other charges they'd already done, ultimately bringing the change order to the 28 working days. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Well, actually, it makes it worse for me.
Sorry.
So we're paying now. I get the 28 where the 6 days came in. I get that. But they're charging us for 28 days of delay. But in the meantime, they're also charging us for those 28 or 34 days to install the temporary blowers.
All right, so that is correct. But the 28 days that they invested in installing the temporary blowers that they're charging us for, you are correct. But
So
that was 20, I'm sorry, but that was 28 days that they had on their schedule for other work that was supposed to be done that got pushed back, extending the end date of the project. So we did pay them for the extra work, but now we're trying to give them also the days to finish. Sorry, Councilor Lindo, go ahead.
So yeah, it doesn't feel like a win. So what's the date of completion for this project?
The date of completion should be in the next month.
So do they have, so they charge us per day for any delay. Do they give us back money for any day that they go past the date of completion?
If it is not if it is before, you mean after the date of completion, that was the original date of completion?
What's the original date of completion?
I do not have that. I could get back to you with that one.
So if they run over time-wise, is their contract diminished?
Right, so I think we could definitely pull that information. I would say it's typical for there to be liquidated damages if they don't meet deliverables, and I can get with my contracts team and legal to get you that exact information. I don't think Mr. Dozier has the contract in front of him to find that liquidated damage portion, but I can definitely get that for you.
I do not have it currently up.
So is this project done within the next couple of months?
Yes, it will be completed in the next few months. The
Like-
construction end is completed. Right now, they're doing the work on the SCADA and electrical connections.
Okay, so are we thinking that we're within 2 months, 3 months, 4 months?
This should be complete in the next month and a half, 2 months.
Okay. With these blowers now, do we have a need for backup blowers?
we are still working on getting the backup blowers repaired. We currently have 3 and 2 are backups at most of the time. So we only required 2, but we have a 3rd backup also.
So we have 2 that are necessary all the time and 1 that's a backup. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and then we also will be fixing our old blower setup that will give us 2 more backups. So we'll have 5 in total.
Okay, I think I've taken this about as far as I can take it. I appreciate the answers on this. I think when the projects are so big and they're so expensive, it's hard to see them get more expensive and to be paying delays and all of these kinds of costs. So I'll yield the floor, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Other questions from the committee? What's the pleasure of the committee?
I'll move for approval, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item G. Can we take a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes,
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
and Counselor Romero Worth.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, thank you, directors, for being here. We are now on to the next item. We have action items discussion. We don't have anything there tonight, so we'll skip to matters from staff. Director McCoy.
No matters from staff at this time.
Matters from the committee. Seems like there was something I was supposed to ask about. I wonder what it was. All right, no matters from the committee, matters from the chair. Our next meeting is Monday, April 18th. That's all we have tonight. So thank you, everybody.